Law for Life, the podcast, with Franklins Solicitors.
Hello, welcome to the Law for Life podcast, and today we're talking divorce with our family law expert, who is Nikita Bhara from Franklin Solicitors. Hello, how are you doing today?
Good morning, Chris. I'm great, thank you. How are you?
Good to see you. So we're talking about something that a lot of couples have to go through. It's something that people dread. It's possibly one of the reasons why people stay in relationships that they're not very happy with, because they just can't face the idea of divorce. But it's a fact of life, and your job at Franklin Solicitors is to guide people through that process and help make it as stressless as possible. I guess it's always going to be quite stressful though, isn't it?
Yes. So it can be a minefield at the very beginning, but we can guide you through that process.
Yes. So let's start off with kind of an overview of divorce law. And you hear a lot about no-fault divorce, because back in the day, I guess you always had to have a reason to be getting divorced, and somebody was to blame for it.
Yes, that's right. So no-fault divorce was introduced in April 2022. So now you do not need to put forward a reason as to why you seek to divorce your spouse. You just need to establish one ground, and that is that the marriage has irretrievably broken down, i.e. there's no going back.
But does this have to be something you both agree? So if you want to get divorced and the other person doesn't, can you still have a no-fault divorce?
You don't have to both agree. So one spouse can simply file the application for divorce, and the other spouse, they can only contest the divorce on very specific grounds, such as jurisdiction, procedural irregularity, etc. So it is very difficult to contest the divorce now.
Okay, so what's the process if you want to get divorced? Do you need a particular document that you have to fill in? Do you pop to the post office and just tick a few boxes?
Yes, so the process, you don't need to go to court. You will apply online via the HMCTS portal. So it's all done on there now. There are specific steps. I can take you through those if that helps. So the application can be made either solely by one spouse or jointly together. So if you both agree that this is what you want to go forward with, then you can actually issue a joint application.
Is that quite common that you get joint applications, or is it normally two people that don't get on well enough to actually agree how they're going to do the divorce?
We see a mix generally, so it depends on the nature of the breakdown of the relationship, how amicable you are, and whether you both have spoken about going forward with the divorce together. So
you complete the paperwork. You don't have to go to court, but
No.
It's a good idea to get solicitors involved.
Yes, it is a good idea to get solicitors involved, just so you're aware of your rights, your legal position. There are other steps involved as well, which a solicitor can take you through, such as when to acknowledge the application, all the way through to obtaining the final order in divorce.
Okay, and how long does the whole process typically take?
For a straightforward divorce, when I say straightforward divorce, that means that there are no complicating factors in relation to sorting out your joint finances. The process can take 6 to 8 months approximately.
Okay, so it's still quite a long period of time. And during that 6 to 8 months, is there no going back? Or if one of you decides, actually, I don't think I want this divorce anymore, things have changed, circumstances are different, is it reversible? How does that work?
So yes, if the applicant decides actually I'm no longer going to pursue it, you can actually retract your application. There is a 20-week reflection period within the divorce process, which allows for that. So there is provision for the applicant or applicants to make an informed decision as to whether this is something that they actually want to pursue.
Okay, so during those 20 weeks, you can cancel it. Can you
Yes.
pause it and then resume it if you want to, or is it kind of a fixed process that just goes on if you want more than 20 weeks to reflect?
You can pause it, however, you would need to inform the court as to why you haven't applied for the next stage on time. So, for example, after that 20-week period, you will be in a position to apply for what's called the conditional order in divorce, and you can put forward any justification as to why that's not been applied for.
Wow. So it sounds like there's quite a few sort of stages that you have to go through with this. And
Yes.
how are you supposed to know what the process is? Is it all explained on the website when you go to apply?
So either a solicitor can take you through the exact process and steps, particularly if there are other circumstances and factors to be taken into consideration. Otherwise, on the portal, it will set out in the court orders that you are provided at every stage your next key dates in the divorce process.
Okay, so can you take me through briefly the different stages of what you have to do then with the divorce and in order?
Yes, so in order it would be firstly to file the application online, either jointly or on your own. Then the other spouse, if it is not a joint application, would need to acknowledge the application, and that will be done online as well. Now, if the spouse does not acknowledge the application, that's when the applicant would need to provide evidence to the courts that they have indeed served the divorce application relevant papers on
So
them.
you have to present them with the papers, so kind of like a Den and Angie moment. You're like, here, this,
Almost
my
so.
dear, here's a file for divorce, and you have to give it to them.
So you wouldn't give it to them personally, but you would instruct a process server to do that on your behalf. And then you can provide to the court the process server's certificate of service, and that's your evidence.
Okay.
Yeah. And then after that, as we mentioned already, there's the 20-week period of reflection before you can apply for the conditional order.
So the 20 weeks starts when they acknowledge the fact that they've received the
Yes,
papers.
that's correct.
And if they don't do that, then you have to prove that they have.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
And then after the 20 weeks,
So once you have received the conditional order from the court, you've then got a further period of 6 weeks to apply, 6 weeks waiting period, before you can apply for your final order in divorce.
okay, and then once you've applied for that, how long does that take to get granted?
So it depends on your local court and their current capacity, but once you've applied for a final order in divorce, it can come back relatively quickly.
Okay, but once you've put that application in, there's no going back at that point.
That's right. So
Yeah.
that will legally end the marriage once you've received the final order in divorce.
And once the marriage is over in that process,
Yes.
is there any way of undoing it?
There isn't any way to undo the divorce once you've obtained the final order. Unfortunately or fortunately, depending on either spouse's positions. So if they did seek to reconcile their relationship and they did want to be married, then it would be them entering into another legal marriage.
Which does happen sometimes. People do get married to the same person again, but usually not straight away.
Yes, it can happen.
But it's rare. It's rare.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So what is the difference between a conditional order and a final order?
Yes, so the conditional order, that is when a judge has considered the application and they have deemed that there is no reason why these parties cannot get a divorce. So it is going to be the gateway for you to obtain the final order in due course. The final order in itself, that is what legally ends the marriage.
Okay.
Yes.
So it's just different steps in the process.
It is, yes.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. I mean, it does sound like a lot to take in, especially when you're quite stressed about your relationship breaking down and there's a lot of emotions involved. The last thing you want to be doing is worrying about processes and paperwork and filing stuff and going on websites. So to me, I would prefer to have somebody there to kind of make sure everything gets done on time. And are there particular deadlines that if you don't complete a process by that deadline, then you've got to start again, or things are going to happen?
Not necessarily. Your case will remain live on the divorce portal, but it is good practice if there is a real reason as to why you are not pursuing the next steps of the divorce to keep the court updated.
Yeah,
and the other party.
Absolutely. Okay, so now the elephant in the room here is money, and
Yes.
this is I think the thing that stresses people out the most about getting divorced. Obviously, you want to make sure that your assets are taken care of, but people worry a lot that they don't know where to start with working out whose is whose and what goes where, and how does it all work?
Yeah, so generally, and this does go hand in hand with the divorce, because we do advise not to apply for the final order in divorce until you have fully resolved the money aspect. So you've got a final order, or preferably consent order, regarding the matrimonial finances. It is a complicated area in that there is no straightforward one-size-fits-all solution. The starting point generally is a 50-50 division. However, there are various factors that can depart from that 50-50 starting point. And that's when a solicitor can advise you and provide you with bespoke advice based on the financial picture at hand as to how that money may be split upon separation.
It's very interesting because we did a podcast, possibly the last or the episode before, we were talking about entering into agreements in a relationship if one of you has put more money into a property or assets, so that it gets divided correctly if you do split up. But if you haven't gone through that process and you feel like one of you has put more money into the relationship than the other, you might not be keen to split it 50-50, but you don't necessarily have any legal rights to that.
Absolutely.
Other than just trying to come to an agreement with the other person.
Yes, that's right. And there are factors at hand that will impact the outcome of that and how that is divided. Just because one spouse has put in all of the money, for example, doesn't necessarily mean that they will receive that back at the end of the marriage. And
then, things like who gets to keep the kitchen table and who gets the dog and who gets the wardrobe that you've spent money on. These are all things you've just got to agree between you, and this can be so difficult if you're already arguing over things. You can see how this could get quite heated. Yes.
In the grand scheme of things, I would say personal items, household items, they are more minimal in terms of the issues at hand. However, in my experience, it can inflame the situation. People can be very personal about their own property and whether they should keep that.
Yeah, which is understandable, but this is how life is, that a lot of the time things belong to both of you equally. Is there any process where you can get a third party with somebody to come and kind of mediate some of these discussions and arguments, or do you just got to thrash it out between you?
Yes, so in terms of resolving that, we can either engage in solicitors' correspondence and put forward proposals and negotiate that way, or parties can engage in mediation itself. So that will be an independent third party to facilitate the negotiations. And
I guess each party in the divorce would need their own solicitors that would need to be from a different firm because of conflicts of interest.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. So you the solicitors could kind of battle it out with some legal letters to try and agree who owns the dog, but at the end of the day it's one word against another, isn't it? I guess.
Yes, exactly. And there was actually recent case law in relation to ownership of pets, and similar to children, it came down to the pet's welfare, where it was best placed. So
I thought you were going to say the pet gets to choose, so you have to stand at opposite ends of the room with a treat and just see which direction the dog goes. But yeah, I don't know if that's legally binding. Okay, and the other thing I wanted to ask you about is consent orders, because I've heard those come up in discussions about divorces. What's a consent order?
Yes, a consent order is very important. It is the legal order that sets out the finances, how they're divided between both parties, and what we do aim to achieve, preferably, is a clean break within those consent orders. That essentially means that in the future neither can make any financial claims against the other. So we like to bottom it all out in that order for clarity heading into the future. So
if you don't have that is something that might happen, that you have financial claims after the divorce, because I assume that's the end of the matter and you can't do anything after that point. Yeah, so it is very important to obtain a consent order before you do divorce. It is a misconception that once you're divorced, that's it. You keep what you own or whatever you've even agreed with your ex-partner. But there needs to be something legally binding to protect you. Okay, that's very interesting. So it can be a bit of a minefield. Do you have any advice to someone that's just starting the divorce process, that's just kind of thinking, I think we're going to have to get divorced? Yes, I would say take your time, seek legal advice. Yes, this is the end of your relationship, but you would need to make fully informed decisions at each stage, because essentially this is setting you up for your new future. Yeah, very good advice. And obviously the team at Franklin Solicitors are there to guide you through the whole process, and in a friendly and approachable way, which is the most important thing, because the last thing that you want is extra stress in a stressful situation. So just trying to take as much of that pressure off couples as possible. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and how can people get in touch with you? So you can contact the office either in Milton Keynes or Northampton, or you can send an email in to the family team at Franklin's. Fabulous. And maybe Nikita will be helping you, or maybe not, because families are coming your way soon anyway, aren't they? So, yes, that's right. Yes, good luck with the kids. Well, thank you so much for joining me on this edition of Law for Life. That's Nikita Bhara, family law solicitor at Franklin's. Thank you.